Titanic Archaeology. Experts are to retrieve the destroyed radio of the ship, but archaeologists are furious about this. Titanic, as we know, sailed from the United Kingdom for New York City, for America, in 1912, and that was its maiden voyage. The unsinkable ship sunk because of its supposed crash into the pack ice of the North Atlantic. Its captain was Edward John Smith. Now, archaeologists will attempt to retrieve the radio system from the Atlantic wreck in order to analyze the last distress signals of the disastrous voyage. Although it's been met by criticism from some quarters, the private firm known as RMS Titanic is set to explore the wreckage of the Titanic in its attempt to retrieve the sunken radio system. And in doing so, experts will be able to analyze the distress calls that were made as the ship made its final few moments towards the iceberg that it crashed into in 1912. But some experts deemed the mission controversial because they say it could cause damage to the sunken ship. The Titanic wreck is a World Heritage Site, so it's protected under international law. So by attempting to retrieve the radio, archaeologists are concerned that RMS Titanic, which owns the salvage rights, could cause more damage than good. Helen Farr, the Associate Professor in Archaeology, and Fraser Sturt, Professor of Archaeology, both at the University of Southampton of the UK, voiced their concerns in an article for The Conversation. The archaeologist said the RMS Titanic Marconi radio was last used to make distress calls from the North Atlantic after the ship struck an iceberg April 14, 1912. And now the radio could become the target of a salvage operation after a private company was granted the permission to recover the artifact from the wreck's interior. The recovery for profit is directly at odds with the ethics of modern archaeological practice. It also raises questions about legal protection for shipwrecks such as the Titanic and how we choose to value our shared cultural heritage. In the recent court hearing, the U.S. government agency, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, advised that the proposed salvage of the radio did not clearly meet these criteria. The justification for the removal of the radio was made on the basis of its unique status, interest to the public, and the threat that it would be lost to degradation in the coming years. Each of these are valid points. The radio has a unique story, is highly evocative, and will, like majority of materials, eventually degrade. But the estimated rate of this degradation is controversial. The ship lies at such depth that conditions are fairly stable. It seems that much of the damage to the ship since its discovery is due to salvage activity. From an archaeological perspective, recovering the radio will involve further damage to the memorial site for very limited gain with regard to scientific and cultural knowledge. We already know the make, model, and history of this radio, so motivation for the salvage appears to lie in the radio's economic potential as a tourist attraction and through a possible future sale. The Titanic is one of the biggest maritime disasters in modern history, with 1,517 people losing their lives. The Titanic stood no chance as it made its way from England to the United States after a 75 million ton iceberg, which had been building from snow which fell around 100,000 years ago, sunk it. Just after midnight on the morning of April 15, 1912, the Titanic arrived at its last known coordinates around 2 hours and 40 minutes after hitting the iceberg. It took more than 4 hours to rescue 711 survivors from the sunken vessel's 20 lifeboats, using ladders, rigging, and the ship's forward cranes to make slings to haul up children and the infirm. Now, this is by Sean Martin of Source UK. Now, we know the very strange thing about this is that they didn't have enough lifeboats to hold all the people that were on the ship. And this is what caused ship's law to change, in that all ships were required from then on to have enough lifeboats in working order to save all people that would have to be evacuated from the ship in case of an accident. So that is what changed. The Titanic is what changed shipping law in order for all ships to have enough lifeboats from then on. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.